Welcome to The Haunted Beard, everybody. My name is Jake. Thank you for joining me. Today I want to give you my review for A Quiet Place Day 1, but real quick before I get into it, I just want to give a shout out to my patrons. Thank you guys so much. Greatly appreciate you and your generosity, and thank you for helping grow the beard. It is greatly appreciated. So with that being said, let's get into my review. Now, I'm sure you're aware, Quiet Place Day 1 is the prequel story to the alien invasion of the creatures with ultra-sensitive hearing, and the prequel story takes us to downtown New York City, where we follow a woman by the name of Sam, played by Lupita Nyong'o, and she is a terminal cancer patient in hospice, but is taking one final day trip to the city to get a piece of pizza, ultimately. And of course, the aliens invade and all hell breaks loose. And Day 1 was one of my more anticipated movies of the year. Been a pretty big fan of the first two Quiet Place films, but was curious to kind of see what they were going to do with the prequel story. And then also, given that it had a new director, Michael Sarnoski, I was interested and curious to see what they were going to do. Now, amongst the highlights for me, first is the setting. I like that they change up the location here. Having this set in a very densely populated area like New York City is a nice change of pace than kind of the, middle of nowhere in the woods kind of thing where the first two took place. Just kind of a nice change of scenery, gives you a different dynamic, and so I like the new location here. I thought that was a good choice. The biggest highlight, though, is definitely the performances and the characters. And really the two main performances by Lupita Nyong'o and then Joseph Quinn, who plays Eric, which is just a guy she happens to meet during all the chaos in downtown New York. And I really like their performances and I really like their characters. And Nyong'o is pretty fantastic. She's this woman that is literally at the end of her life and, finds herself in this just completely chaotic and insane situation. And I like, really from a writing perspective, what they did with her character, that, instead of her deciding to evacuate and get off of Staten Island, she decides to go into Harlem, where she has some of her childhood memories, to go get a piece of pizza. And just kind of the simplicity of that, I felt like it really rang true with her character. I totally kind of bought into that, and it totally made sense, which I think really lends to Michael Sarnoski's strengths, not only as a director, but also as a writer. And I believe this is his second feature-length film, and his feature film debut was a movie called Pig that came out a couple years ago starring Nicolas Cage, which I thought was actually a pretty good film. And I was really surprised kind of how character-driven it was and how good the characters were in that film. And now having another film that is very heavily character-driven, I think we're really starting to see his strengths and talents emerge as a director and a writer as well. And this is largely a character-driven film and character-driven story, with kind of the aliens sort of happening in the background. And so it kind of gives you this interesting dynamic, and there is this relationship that develops between these two people, Sam and Eric, as they just make their way into the city, and Eric just decides to follow her to go get a slice of pizza before her life ultimately ends, kind of thing. And so that whole situation gives way to, I think, some pretty well-handled dramatic moments and emotional moments as well. And those moments, I think, are well written and also well acted. And so Sarnoski just does a good job getting you invested in the characters and getting you to care for them, which I think is the film's biggest strength. And while that is, I think, the film's biggest strength, it also leads right into what I think is a bit of a mixed aspect in Quiet Place Day 1, is that this is a film that I feel works better as a drama than it does as a horror film. And so while I appreciate it's a character-driven film and we care about the characters, to me, it left a little bit to be desired in terms of the intensity of it all and the horror of it all. And I think the fact that this is the third film now didn't really do it any favors, because throughout pretty much the entire film, there was just a little bit of this feeling of that it just kind of felt a little tired. It kind of felt a little like we've been there, we've done that, we've kind of seen this before. Also, given the fact that this is a prequel, it does suffer, I think, a little bit from kind of the typical prequel type syndrome to where, you know, you can only have so much suspense and mystery woven into the story because ultimately we already kind of know where it's going to end. And so personally, while I don't really have any major complaints or issues with the movie, it's well done, it's well executed. Again, the characters and the performances are all really strong. And so while it leaves an impact in the emotional, dramatic character side, it doesn't leave quite as much of an impact in the suspense, thriller, horror side. And I think largely it's just because it does feel a little bit repetitive and a little bit tired because this is now the third film. And it doesn't really do anything all that different. And it doesn't really approach the story or this world in such a way to try to explore it or expand on it really all that much to potentially set up another film down the line. And so you're left with a well-made, character-driven film set in the Quiet Place universe, but that's kind of about it. It doesn't have much of a horror thriller impact, and it doesn't expand on the world in any sort of meaningful way. And so for me personally, I kind of feel like the Quiet Place movies have run their course. I'm not really sure where they would go from here. If they decide to make a fourth film, I would really need to see something different and ambitious and really kind of change things up for me to get all that interested in seeing another film. So yeah, this is kind of an interesting one because, again, there are some pretty strong aspects, but overall, it has a bit of that been there, done that sort of feeling to it all. So overall, for a grade, I think I'm going to go like a 6.5 out of 10 for A Quiet Place Day One. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Hit me up down below. Let me know your thoughts. I'd be curious to know, how invested are you still in the series? What direction do you think they should take this? Like, if they make another one, from what sort of angle or perspective would you like to see? Would be curious to hear your thoughts on that. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. That's all I got for you. If you got anything out of this video, go ahead and do me a favor and do not click that subscribe button unless you want to be haunted by the beard.